Welcome everyone to the Magical Frequency. On tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about the hypnagogic state and how to hack this to create whatever you want while you're imagining during that state to happen in real life. So if you want to learn how to do this, continue watching and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so I hit that algorithm. And hello, if you are new here, my name is Chrissy. I am a simulation theorist and I like to explore all topics with this lens, this purview over our reality, if you will, especially hand in hand with my whole checkerboard theory. It's not really technically a theory, it's really a hypothesis, but I like the way the checkerboard theory sounds. What it only means is, boiling it down, is the phosphenes in your eyes when you are triggering certain mechanisms in your retina create these different things, these images, these flashing lights. Some people hallucinate during this time, and I'm going to insert a couple of different clips during this to just further articulate what I'm trying to say. In the comments recently, I've been called a schizo and a psychopath, but I know you want to perhaps maybe say some of that about some of my content, but before you do, at least to hear it out to see if any of the stories or any of the things that I'm saying make sense, and then actually go out and do your own research and test it for yourself, because I feel if you deep dive on some of these things that I'm talking about, you will start to discover the truth behind them too in your own very unique way, I'm sure, just like I did.
Experience of seeing some shapes or images or lights on a relatively frequent basis, and those lights weren't actually there in the room, and they were concerned that they had some type of a psychotic disorder or that there was something seriously wrong. What this individual was describing were hypnagogic, so as they're falling into sleep, or hypnopompic, as they're coming out of sleep, hallucinations, where individuals may see something. Most of the time it's actually visual, but they may also hear something, or they may feel something that's not actually there. So these experiences are not actually true hallucinations, and so they're not something that a psychiatrist would be overly concerned about, although they can cause the person to have distress. But I wouldn't be overly concerned about them happening. They're a normal phenomenon that occur at least once in about 70% of people out there. They're not dangerous, and they're not pathognomonic by any means for a mental illness or a psychiatric condition. However, if someone experiences these frequently or even experiences them once, they may become more anxious about going to bed or fearful about sleep, and that could result in insomnia or anxiety about going to sleep, which could certainly be a problem. And some psychoeducation about this condition or some behavioral changes could be really helpful for individuals.
When I go down these specific rabbit holes, let's talk about phosphenes as a gateway to the simulation code during the hypnagogic state. And what that is that state right before you're about to fall asleep. It's probably, I don't know, once you relax, 2 to 3 minutes in transitions from beta to alpha and then later to theta. But right in that stage, right when it's transitioning, there is this state called the hypnagogic state, but there's lots of things people refer to this state as in the manifesting community. Very heavily popularized by Neville Goddard is the state akin to sleep. He is one of the 4 founding fathers on that specific thing in the manifesting community on YouTube for sure. But there's a whole bunch of other people that explored and discovered this state before Neville, and there was plenty of folks that dabbled in this state to reality create. I have another video where I went in depth on some of this, and many of the inventors of our modern society use this to either assist or create or come up with many of the revolutionary inventions that we are using to this day. And there's probably so many other people that have accessed and utilized this state and just don't talk about it, or just articulate it in a different way, or don't realize that that's what they're doing. And hopefully with this video, I can plant some seeds of awareness for you to go out and test this for yourself. Nothing I'm ever saying on this channel is for me to just spew information at you with no legitimate action on your part to partake in reality creation. I hope that everybody can come back to my comments at some point and say, you've utilized some of the things that you've consumed on my channel to be able to reality create, to be able to talk about the things that really interest me, and that I think that it could help the rest of the world, especially those that don't know about these concepts and haven't dabbled in them, to explore them for yourself, to test them out, to try different things and see how they work for you. No harm, no foul, especially when it comes to self-improvement modalities. But again, always test things for yourself. Don't just blindly listen to anybody that you would hear on the internets. Regardless, let's get back into this.
Researchers, as well as people in the positive thinking tradition, one of them is a French hypnotherapist named Emile Coué. He theorized that just as you're coming to wakefulness in the morning, or just as you're drifting off to sleep at night, you're in a state which is sometimes called the hypnagogic state, where your rational defenses are down, and there is a kind of mental, emotional, bodily integration that may occur at that state that makes you exquisitely sensitive to suggestibility. And if you can direct a thought when you're in that state, it may be a time of unique possibility, not only to self-reprogram or recondition yourself through the introduction of an idea into your psyche, whatever it is you want. Also a time where psychical researchers have found in this series of experiments that was called the Ganzfeld experiment. It's a uniquely prime time, it seems, for the sending of telepathic suggestion to other people. And that may also be something that's going on amid all this positive thinking stuff. There may be an aspect of our minds that are constantly sending out messages, looking for help from other people, looking for people who might meet us halfway, who might provide something we need, who might help us solve a problem, where we're able to emit some sort of information to other people. So I would experiment with that time of day, those evening hours just before you drift off, those morning hours just before you come to.
States, as opposed to like beta states is when we're all over the place. Alpha states, when you're relaxed state, we have more power.
Power when we're in that state, but you have to be really careful of how you focus, because we focus things, it can be very manipulating. So you're going to be focused on something that has to do with yourself, but not to try to make somebody else do something with in relation to
psychic.
I'm psychic or aware. People come to me for readings and all this stuff. They're asking how, they're getting confused of how to use this kind of power. Yeah. They're either afraid of it, or they're afraid they know things in advance and they don't want to know what they know, and all these kinds of things. But part of it is really understand there's a responsibility in having this awareness of being the fullness that we are.
So the subconscious mind is what's being accessed during that time. And realistically, everybody calls it the subconscious mind, but I think it's the point where and I'm going to use images to the best of my ability to articulate this, because I have no other way to do so. I believe it's the time where you are actually connecting in to the simulation via whatever you are thinking about. So during that hypnagogic state, if you vividly attempt to imagine, especially when the phosphenes are flashing. So many people, I'm not saying all people, but many people can report actually having flashes of light, like I said earlier, hallucinations, different things. But honing in on those things, recognizing that they're actually just phosphenes, and then even if they are phosphenes, can mean also spiraling checkerboard pattern. It can mean a flower of life pattern, which happens for me as well. It's not just the checkerboard pattern. Like, I get flashes of lights, I get orbs, I see orbs. And I found it really interesting that one of the photos that I had AI generate had orbs around the bed, and that happened to me as a child. I believe my phosphenes or something were kicked in high gear, and I saw all of these orbs above me when I was very young. And I remember telling my mom the next day, and she looked at me like if I was dreaming or something, but I vividly remember that. And I think those are the phosphenes kicking in to what would be then interacting with any thoughts that would be then turning into vivid imagery in your mind's eye, which would be sending out vibratory electrical signals, or whatever signals, if you will, to the receptors of the simulation of the matrix. This sends out to whatever you want to call it, the existence of the world, the goo, they have so many names for it now, a substance, like all of these fun, cool names, whatever it is, it has these receptors and then picks up on the imagery that you are thinking of in that hypnagogic state. And then you are able to glean things in the simulation, can help you. Maybe, for example, if you have an invention and you need to figure out the last pieces of the invention, you can get information like that at this state. You are accessing code that you are able to access the infinite consciousness that lies outside of the simulation, if you will, and it can give you and provide you answers and or shift your holographic reality to display on front of you the screen of life, your individual movie, your whatever you want to call it, your film strip. It will show you the things that you have been heavily envisioning and imagining in that hypnagogic state. So it's extremely important that you start to play with this specific state. It's actually also falling in and out of sleep in the morning when you are waking up, to play with this state, to see vivid imagery during this time while your phosphenes are kicking into high gear. Some people have a sense of like they're falling. I've had that before. There's different things that happen during that state, but if you see the phosphenes, like the flashing lights, seeing the goal in that, like trying to focus where you see that flashing light or the orbs or the spiral. So I have checkerboard meditations where I'm like dropping $100 bills or whatever. So you could be envisioning like money or a relationship, like you walking on the beach with somebody, like envision a scene. You can attempt to then hear things. There are people that actually hear things during this state, but I would say that the more real you can attempt to envision this during this state, and there are different teachers that claim that you can do it for 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it is to make it real. But in my opinion, it's just an ongoing practice that I would probably use for the rest of my life, because it's nice falling asleep to things that make you happy. It's nice falling asleep to things that you want to focus on, like goals, dreams, aspirations, next level, God bodiness. You want to fall asleep to this. You want to fall asleep to the next best thing in your life. You want to fall asleep to the next slice of heaven that you're going to be witnessing, right? Why would you not want to impress that upon your subconscious as you're falling asleep? Impress that to the simulation. You're also doing in real time is creating those neural pathways that will only strengthen those signal makers to the simulation. You are strengthening those actual neuroplastic connections in your brain. So the repeated visualizations will continue to pave those roads. It's as if you have little people working on your brain every time you're doing it, carving out the new neurons and the plasticity, making it all in place for you to only better and better be able to articulate to the simulation what you want, or to be able to strengthen those pathways and turn on your reticular activating system that will then assist you in having you manifest, which for me is bringing the scene to the scene. Because if everything has already been created, the simulation can create anything at any time. All it means is that you need to lay your observatory power over it. And you can do this during that hypnagogic state. Use the observer effect during the hypnagogic state while your phosphenes are firing. Use that to then imagine. And if you can't imagine, it doesn't matter. There's so many different techniques that people use too. Like imagine that, somebody phone a friend, like somebody's phoning you, that you did X, Y, or Z. You imagining yourself in that scene, third person, if you will. You're observing from almost on high, God body status. It can be like that, like where you're seeing yourself, like, I don't know, graduating and you're like above the theater, seeing everybody clapping for you and you accepting the diploma. Very much so something like that. Very much so when I did it, I would envision myself on the beach, having drinks on the beach, enjoying myself with my cooler on the beach. A very heavy scene that I visualized was snorkeling. I was always like wanting to snorkel on the beach, so I was always envisioning myself snorkeling on the beach, what it would feel like to have the sun hit my face. So falling asleep to these types of feelings over and over again will build the pathways that will continue to activate you to get to the next thing that you want to see on the screen of life, and the simulation will show you. That's why this state is extremely important, because most people fall asleep with nothing on their mind, with being exhausted on their mind, with what they don't want on their mind, with what they're pissed off with on their mind. They could be falling asleep to some random song that they don't care about. Some people fall asleep to like horror movies. I don't recommend. 0 out of 10 do not recommend that. I have done that before and it causes me nightmares, to be quite honest with you, especially back in the day when I used to watch things like The Walking Dead right before I was going to fall asleep. And listen, I love zombies as much as the next guy, but when I would fall asleep to that, I would have like these very graphic dreams of zombies chasing me and like me having to be in a zombie apocalypse beating off zombies. So I think it's really important that you fall asleep to the things that you want. You're going to be consuming social media, be consuming a reel of stuff that you want to see on your timeline. If you want a house, be looking at that house. If you want a certain thing in your life, be looking at that. If you want like a diploma, if you want to graduate from something, if you want to get a career move, if you want to have a relationship, just consuming things of that sort, things that are of that modality, and making sure that that's what you're falling asleep to in scenarios that you want to happen to yourself. Only fall asleep to scenarios that you want to play out in real life. Repeat that again. Only fall asleep to scenarios that you want to happen in real life. The more and more you do this and you focus on this, so while you're in the hypnagogic state, focus on whichever specific goal you would like. And I'm doing this alongside with all of the folks that are following this type of material as well. Tonight I will be falling asleep thinking about my goal in the hypnagogic state, making sure that I'm envisioning what I think I would be seeing, the things I would be feeling, just knowing that it's out there, taking the God bodiness attitude that you know that these things are for you and that it is a simulation and that all you have to do is just use your power of consciousness and awareness, and then making sure that you are keeping that focus. Again, here comes back that word focus. You are keeping your focus during your hypnagogic state on what you actually want to see play out on the screen of life. That is amazing. I think that is such a cool thing that I will be using for the rest of my life, because I know for free falling asleep in a good mood always has me waking up in a good mood, and can't nobody tell me nothing otherwise. And on top of that, a word on gratefulness has always worked really well, and I think it's just because it's such a strong emotion. Like, true gratefulness is up there with the feeling of love. I'm not you, because you could use love too. Gratefulness is up there because you're grateful, you are happy, you are paying homage. There's just something about the frequency of thank you. You as a person, what is that essence that you feel when somebody is grateful to you? When you truly feel as if somebody has enjoyed your presence, or that you provided some sort of value. Somebody has been truly grateful for what you have done for them. What is that feeling? And if you don't think that you understand that feeling, you totally do, because how do you feel if somebody does something extremely special for you and says thank you and is appreciative towards you? You know how you feel about that. So you take those emotions and amplify them, because I think the universe responds to this. The universe responds to amplified emotion that is of the nature of expansion. And that's how I see it. If it is something that you are looking to expand into, the universe wants you to expand. It supports the whole theory of like evolution, if you will. It's just something, because the universe is always trying to further explore itself, further experience itself, further get to the next thing. It's always trying to unfold its grand consciousness over and over again. It's all just data recycling and coming up with new things and coming up with old things and just the things over and over again. And in this hypnagogic state, it can give you of creativity. This is why people say they hallucinate. Use those hallucinations to your advantage. Some people may say that, I think this one woman here that I will be using the video of is, I think her name might be Schizo something. And that's really funny, because somebody did leave me that comment recently. And these folks that are quote unquote considered schizos may have an increased level of phosphenes, it seems like, and that scariness during the hypnagogic state where they experience those hallucinations.
Worrying that they're hypnagogic hallucinations, like hearing voices before they go to sleep, makes them worry that they have schizophrenia or another psychotic disorder. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not a medical professional, so can't actually say this as actual medical advice, but these hallucinations are not connected to psychotic disorders in a traditional sense. So just because someone hears a lot of voices before they go to sleep, or sees flashes of light, or feels like they're falling, that doesn't mean they automatically have a psychotic disorder.
But can you use those hallucinations to your advantage? Can you take everything that you're witnessing and experience and use this as creative modalities to be able to process something in this 3D, to be able to create something, to be able to just use it in such a way that gets you to your next best goal or whatever you're trying to achieve, and not look at it as this like weird, scary, we don't understand what's happening during the state. Like, I feel like I'm falling during the state. At that, like, this state can feel peculiar and weird to people. But if we just start to hone in on it and practice it, just like a muscle, just like your memory is a muscle, just like your imagination is a muscle, mastering how to imagine during the hypnagogic state while phosphenes are firing is an art in and of itself. And I think that right there is the essence of the simulation, creating, sending signals out to the field to cause the next set of events that need to occur in the universe, in this 3D reality. All of this, that is the essence, that is the connection point at its purest, where you are accessing the code that you would be accessing through that holographic nature of reality, where you can have it then shift you the next day. You can start to see those things on your screen of reality shift. And then, of course, through actions and ongoing thoughts, of course. That's why people say, you know, you need to be this new person, because is this new person thinking, acting, feeling like the person that doesn't have that said goal, thing, whatever it is, next level, whatever you're trying to achieve? This person would always be in receipt of whatever it is. It would be in receipt of whatever the goal or desire is. It would not be in lack of. It would be in the knowing of that you have it, and that it's only a mere matter of just perception of our understanding of time, where that thing would eventually reveal itself to you, because it has to, because you've programmed it during the hypnagogic state. It cannot be another way, because that is what you are uploading to the projector. You are scripting what needs to be the next thing on the simulation during this time. So I hope you understand what I'm saying when I say it's almost as if during that time, your brain, your receiver, is a blank Excel sheet, and you are uploading what you want to see, what you want the calculations to spit out on through this sheet. But you're the one inputting the codes into that sheet, so then when it's all said and done, the formula spits out the perfect algorithm for you. And that is what you're doing during the hypnagogic state. And everybody can have their own little techniques, their own little ways of doing that. You can come up with your own grand scheme of a plan to what to do during that hypnagogic state to activate the simulation, to be able to show you things. What we're talking about as a community is mostly things that people have done in the past that have worked for them. But with this new and upcoming way, we're expanding. We're thinking of new ways. We're talking about new theories and concepts, because at the end of the day, that's what the universe favors: expansion. And as long as you are attempting to self-actualize, to get to the next best level, to do expanded thinking, to work in the hypnagogic state, to dictate, to control, to manipulate, to program, essentially script out what your brain does ongoing, what your brain does for you. Your brain is the receptor. You program your brain to show you things. Like, again, the reticular activating system. I love speaking on the reticular activating system, because this is something that is highly programmable during this time. This will actively seek out what you want it to seek. You can program your Raz to be like a hound dog and sniff out everything you want in your reality. And while that's happening, the sim will continue to shift, because your thoughts, decisions, actions begin to shift with it. And then your whole reality begins to change, and then you will see new opportunities present that you may have not been seen before. Things will start to maneuver, and things will start to become strange as well. You will see things that didn't happen before start to happen now. Situations that you were thinking about will start to actually unfold before you in very peculiar ways. And you will then start proving to yourself that you actually are living in a simulated environment, that once you understand a little bit of the mechanisms behind how it works, start to play with them, you start to create this beautiful structured distance for yourself. But again, it's just like driving a car. You don't always necessarily have to understand how the vehicle works. You just have to know how to drive it, and then make sure to take it in for maintenance and do certain things on your own, but make sure that you're doing those things to maximize your ride on in that car. Same thing with this reality. You don't need to understand every living part of what's going on behind it, but as long as you understand certain components, like the hypnagogic state, you will be able to transform your reality in front of your own eyes. So I know everybody enjoyed this video because there is nothing else quite like it out here on YouTube. So for that alone, like I said before, remember to give me a like and a subscribe. And until the next time, guys, I know you will all continue to manifest magic and resonate on your highest frequency. Bye, guys. Love you all.